Rachel here from Beads by Verchiel, bringing you tutorial on doing floating necklaces. So whether you're live or whether you're watching me on the replay, don't forget, do give me a thumbs up, do pop me a note in the comments so I know you were present. This is the third in a row that we've done using these little things. I don't know if you could see them, these little CALLOTS. Not only are we doing floating necklaces, I'm going to show you how to do the multi-strand ones as well. So this tutorial will combine both for you. So this is what we're going to do with the demo piece, but not with these beads. So this is a multi-strand, and I'm going to use the bead board to show you how you adjust your measurements. And this is the CALLOTS that we use at the back. I'm going to show you a few other samples as well. So the one I'm wearing is freshwater pearls. I think I've got a few crystals in there. This is a really good project for using all your odds and ends beads as well, because you actually don't need a lot of beads for this project. This one is using amethyst, again with some freshwater pearls. And this one, like the one I'm wearing, is just a simple single strand. This bead board is a really useful tool. You've got 3 grooves on there, and it is the outer one is the true measurement. The other 2 are so that they're equally spaced out if you want to do multi-strand. Now I want mine a bit further apart, so I'm using the inner one and the outer ones. Just bear in mind, if you're doing a 9-inch, your shorter one is going to be 8-inch. So just bear that in mind, because you don't want a super choker necklace, do you? And what I'd recommend is that you lay your beads out how you want them. First of all, get some kind of idea and vision. I would suggest that you have the main weight on the outside. And then I'd suggest that on the inner one, you fill in the gaps. So this is going to be my center point. I'm having that on the 0. I've got some check 3mm crystals, some freshwater pearls, and I've cut, this is the satin wire, and I've cut the exact length I need. Crimp bead. If you've not heard of a crimp bead before, what they do is they secure things in place, but you have to squeeze it. So you can just see that that's gone on there. And then I'm going to get my chain nose pliers, and I'm going to squeeze and try and get that squeeze so that it sits in the centre, so that it's not tilted to one side. And then I'm going to lift that up and pop on my second crimp bead. So what I'd recommend is that you let the weight drop and then you crimp the bead the other side. So we're doing the outer one, and we're going to get another crimp bead. Now the second bead or crimp bead, actually crimp it 2 inches away from the last one. So I'm going to just measure 0 to 2 inches, because that's a lot easier. And the second group I've got here, like I say, I've just laid it out roughly where I'd like it. So we've got some freshwater pearls in a pinky colour. I think one of the most important things about this type of necklace is also the weight as well, because you don't want the second strand heavier than the first. So there we go with that. So I'm just going to crimp that, and then I'm going to do the same the other side. And to measure 2 inches this side and squeeze that crimp bead. And pop a crimp bead on, and try and get the crimp bead sitting in the same direction if you can. centre bit there, 2 inches apart, and then this little bit here, I don't think you always want much detail at the back because you're not actually going to see it much. We'll do it another 2 inches apart from the last crimp bead. Now this one, I've just done a very small accent of a couple of beads, and I've got 3 beads, and that way you're not taking away your focal point. That's 1 entire strand. So there we have the centre ones. Let's just zoom in a bit more so you can see those crimp beads. Then we shimmy along. I've done a 2-inch gap, but that really is down to how busy you want your necklace. And there's the next one and the last one in that group. I have just done a freshwater pearl and a 3mm. And then I'm going to show you how we do the next one. I'm going to cut a length of this satin thread. I don't want too much weight, but I want something in the centre. This is the bit you need a little bit of work. Now, really, you want this to fit in between, and that's exactly what I'm going to do. And you can see how that roughly will sit in between so that you haven't got a full gap there. In the centre, these are centimetres, and on the outside are inches. If you haven't got a bead board, then what I would suggest is that you lay it on your mat and that you try and work out the positioning that way. We've got centre one there, smaller centre one there. We're filling in the gaps here, and then finally we're going to fill the gaps in where you've got a few gaps here. So pop some more crimp beads on, and then I'll show you how to finish. Let's just show you the ends here. Now, you want to actually make sure that your ends marry up together before you put your CALLOTS on. I'm going to cut the outer one so that it's exactly 9. And you could use a ruler. So that's the 9. And you want that cut so that it sits flush with it. And 9. Let's make sure that sits at the 0, and we'll trim that. Now, just to recap, what I've done here is I've made sure that they both are cut so they're level with the 9-inch. I'm going to take this off my bead board. These are the 2 on one end. Okay, to one end, to the other. So if you cut the ends so that they're flush, you don't have to faff around trying to actually make sure that it sits right. These are your CALLOTS. They're like clamshells. They've got a hole in the middle Let's pop that on there. They've got a hole in the middle and they've got a hole at the side. The hole at the side is to pop your clasps on. And some of them have got double rings, so some of them you've got double rings to pop your clasp on. Now both of these will go up inside your calotte. I'm just going to swish that to the side so that you can see what I've done. And then we're going to push that calotte just out the way a moment. You can do this one or two ways. Either you can pop a crimp bead, one on each side, which probably is the easier option, but I'm going to see if I can get the crimp bead will go on both, like so. And I'm going to push it right up to the edge. Make sure that you've got them the right way round, if that makes sense. You want that one lying flat on the inside, that's the lower one, and squeeze. So push up your calotte, and you can either do it with your fingers or do it with your pliers, which will give a much better effect. So isn't that a really neat effect? Shimmy along to the other side. Make sure that your shorter thread is sits on the lower side. Bring them together, and we are going to pop a crimp bead on and squeeze that one, close that up. If you were doing the single one, it's exactly the same process. You just put the one length inside rather than the two. So there you have both ends, and we're going to attach some clasps. Top tips on clasps. Firstly, for these calottes, I would use thicker jump rings because some of them have got quite fine metal ends, and what you don't want to happen is if you've got a fine jump ring, the fine jump ring may slip through. I would suggest you using a thick jump ring, 1mm thick. Now, if you're right-handed, you clamp in the left with the jump ring pointing at 12 o'clock and you chain those pliers in the right. And vice versa if you're left-handed, just very gentle movements. If you've got other projects and you struggle, use finer jump rings that are softer. Just gentle movements, so you don't have to open it much, just a little bit. Pop that on there, the calotte, pop your clasp on there. Now, in terms of how to do this, a really good tight clamp on both pliers, I would say bring it past the point where you want to go and bring it back. I'll do that again, bring it past and bring it back. You can almost hear it click. And what I find also helps is when you've done that, is just pop your pliers on the top and squeeze the jump ring. That's the one side. Also, if you're struggling, you'll find that bigger jump rings are better to work and easier to work with. So it could be that the jump rings you're working with are a little bit small. So don't be frightened to perhaps go up a little bit and perhaps go for a 6 or a 7mm jump ring. So can you see I've gone past it? And these really are okay with a bit of rough and tumble. So don't be frightened of them. And there you have your clasp. You can always pop an extender chain, but how neat is that? So you've got all of that enclosed. It's nice against the skin. And what I'm going to do is just actually zoom out and show you what this necklace looks like. You can, like I say, I'm just going to quickly show you what it looks like if you've got an extender. Push that out the way. So the extender clasp, this one, I've got a little Swarovski crystal. You just literally cut a length of chain and pop that on a jump ring. Okay. Now, in the way that that's been measured out, Can you see how you've got a nice weight on it? So you've got this one in the centre that brings a centre focal point. If you didn't want such a big gap, then you could go to the second tier on the bead board. There, round the back, you've got that lovely, neat clasp finish. So what do you think? Think you give it a go? Thank you so much for joining me. It's always, I know I can't see you, but it's always so lovely to see all your comments and know that you're here with me. Take care, but if you've got any more questions, just pop a note in the comments. I'm out of breath. Anyway, thanks then. Bye.